Welcome everyone to my how-to video on writing the strengths section of your SWOT report. So this is the strengths of the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats report that you'll be writing for our business writing class. Okay, so here are the topics I'm going to be covering in this video. First, the definition. Basically, the way that you can think of strengths, like what counts as a strength? Is it something, an aspect that of the business that the business has control over, so it's internal to the business, that targets the demographics that their target demographics love? So this would be anything that attracts new customers or consumers or clients from among the target demographics. It's anything that keeps current customers coming back for more, or that current customers end up recommending the most to others. And so just remember that something is only a strength if it attracts your current customer demographics or your current client demographics. So that's whoever you sell to the most or you want to attract the most. Your current customer demographics. If it is something, if the aspect is something that other groups care about, but they are not our current customers, that would be a good topic for the opportunity section, okay? So before you can write this section, you really have to know who your current target demographics are. Who are your current customers? Who are your current clients? Who is the largest group among your target demographics? That's who you would want to talk to, survey, interview, research in terms of what they like about the business. Okay, so that is your goal. Basically, you're answering what do our customers love or what do our clients love? And so the premise of each of your paragraphs in the strength section would answer that question. What is one thing that our customers love? And so for this section, just like the others, you should have 2 to 4 points. That will suffice for the length of this project. One will not be enough. If you only have 2, make sure they are really awesome. The overall structure I'll be talking about when I do my example commentary, but since you have more than one point, each point should have its own paragraph. That means you're going to have multiple paragraphs in this section. That is also why we have section headings, so that you can show that all these paragraphs together count under strengths. You may decide if you want to do a mini introduction to your section. So that would be 1 or 2 sentences at the start of the strengths section that basically introduces your topics. It acts a little bit like a thesis. This is optional, but if you do it in strengths, you have to do it in the weaknesses, opportunities, and threats as well. If you don't do it in strengths, don't do it in the other sections either. And then you might also consider having subsection headings. So a heading for each of your topics so that your reader can spot those. To learn more about that, having subsection headings, you can look at my how-to video on the visual design of your SWOT report. All right, within these body paragraphs, you should be using the PEC paragraph structure. So that's starting with a premise that answers the question. So answers the question, what's one thing that my customers love? Supporting that with sufficient evidence, including secondary and or primary research. Typically, research is most effective when you are drawing from both primary and secondary, but sometimes that isn't always possible. And then ending your paragraph on a concluding sentence. So this would be the last sentence of your body paragraph. Basically making a recommendation for that topic. So you're dealing with strengths. So basically what you'd be recommending is how is this topic, how might you use this aspect of the business to ensure the continued success with attracting the current target demographic, okay? So we'll be looking at that structure in the example. Your strength section should relate to both the intro and concluding sections. So your very first section of the SWOT report is an introduction in which you basically profile the business. So any topics that you bring up in the strength section that are the basis for your arguments, those topics should be profiled, and by profiled I mean simply described. So if one of your strengths is price, Then in the intro, you would just give a brief paragraph describing the range of prices for your products. You wouldn't make any arguments in the introduction, but that helps relate the introduction to your strengths section by introducing the topics and the full information in the intro that you then can pick and choose to use for evidence when you make your argument about that topic. And then strengths should also relate to your conclusion section. So in your concluding section, you're making an overall recommendation. And so this overall recommendation would be your suggestion for what you think the business should do next. And in the concluding section, you should explain what strengths that recommendation will be able to utilize. Okay, so notice that concluding paragraph very closely to the concluding sentence of body paragraphs, and that is on purpose. So I'll talk more about creating your concluding section in another video. But this is both the intro and the conclusion will be important to tie into your strength section. And then finally, I'm going to be focusing mostly on showing you these things by taking you through my example commentary. Okay, so to take us through this, I'm going to shift on over to our Moodle page. All right, so here it is. And to find the relevant information, you need to click on week 5. You can see that I've organized this by topics instead of days of the week because of the amount of work that you're going to be doing on multiple assignments during this week and leading up to it. I didn't want to dictate when you work on it. So this is organized by topic, and you just want to go down to examples under week 5, and you want to click on this Word document here, SWOT example commentary. So this is me commenting on the Dear 72 example. All right, so I'm going to pop open my Dear 72 commentary. All right, so I'm going to scroll down to the strengths, and we're going to be focusing on this. So the first thing I want to point out is that this example does have a mini introduction in the strengths section, and as you can see, it just brings up the specific topics of this section in the same order in which they appear, just like our thesis should do. But if one section has a mini introduction, all of them should. So if you scroll down to weaknesses and opportunities, they don't have a mini, well, opportunities does, but weaknesses doesn't. So make sure that if you choose to have a mini introduction, you do it in each section. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to talk about here is paragraph structure. So this would be the PEC order: premise, evidence, conclusion. So as you can see, I've marked out this first sentence. Dear 72 is located on a diverse college campus, which is a strength for the business because of the large population and demographic makeup. Sure, this may touch on what a premise is supposed to do, but it isn't as effective as, say, the second sentence. Being located on the campus of the University of Illinois, which is made up of ... offers a large group of potential customers. These two sentences basically say the same thing, except the second sentence structure is much clearer. It has more specifics, and it's just more effective. So I've marked out the first sentence. So that may happen during your drafting process, and that's okay. So after you've drafted a paragraph, make sure that you go back and you identify, the best way to state your overall claim. And basically what you should be doing in the premises is you are bringing up the specific topic of your premise and what makes it a strength. So you can see that it's doing that in the second sentence. Being located on the campus of U of I is the topic, and then offers a large group of potential customers is what makes it a strength. Okay, so that's what you want to answer in the first sentence. What is the strength and what makes it a strength? After that, you're ready to start proving with evidence. So the bulk of your paragraph should be evidence, pulling from both primary and secondary if you can. And this is fine. So this uses an interview from the manager of the business saying that most of their customers are international Chinese students. and it even draws from some demographic data written by the university, which is really nice. However, there's a problem with citation here. There's no citation of where this percentage came from, so make sure you're using a citation method. And I don't care what citation method you use. It could be APA, MLA, or Chicago, as long as you're using it correctly and consistently. Okay. So the other thing about this paragraph, and this is the really important, each part of the paragraph structure is important, but to make sure your concluding section is effective, we need to have these concluding sentences. And so this paragraph doesn't have one. It just ends on evidence. And so this is where you should make a recommendation about this particular topic. So this is what a concluding sentence does. It ties this particular topic to the overall purpose of your document. So this topic is its location and how it gives us access to our target demographic very well. And the overall purpose of this SWOT report is to make a recommendation to the business. Therefore, in the last sentence of this paragraph, I should say how the location relates to making a recommendation for the future success of this business. So for example, since the brand is most popular with Chinese international students, that's the topic of this paragraph, any decisions concerning product and marketing should target this demographic. So this is the recommendation, okay? So this is assuming that the business is going to do something different in the future, and I basically just picked topics or changes or recommendations I thought might be likely, and I make a recommendation about how to integrate this topic into a recommendation. Okay, and that's what you should do. Be specific, and it's okay if you have multiple ideas. You can say a range of ideas would include ... Okay. All right, so some other points in this example I want to point out. Occasionally, you accidentally slip in a couple of extra arguments into a paragraph. So this second paragraph here actually has two topics, and it should really be split into two paragraphs instead of one. So Deer 72, that's the business name, thrives in business activity because of their great prices. That's one point, and quality of products. So if you look at the rest of this paragraph, you see what happens down here. The products are mostly made of 100% Korean products, ... There is no evidence in here saying that that is attractive to our current customer demographics, Chinese international students. So this really needs to be its own paragraph. We would move this topic down there, and we would finish our paragraph development by adding primary and secondary research. Okay, I would have to complete this premise, add research, and then make sure I end on a conclusion. Okay, so let's look at the rest of this paragraph and how they do on their evidence. Okay, so here's a stylistic thing about SWOT reports. SWOT reports are very objective. Therefore, there shouldn't be any focus on us, the writers, or the readers. So you should avoid first person and second person. Using the word you in business writing can make a reader feel very uncomfortable. Using the word we, especially as a subject, misdirects our reader's attention away from our topic. Our topic is the business, its strengths. So the business or its strengths should be the subject, not us. So, for example, the comparison is based on 4 major categories. So if it's okay to draft with first person, because often it's a lot easier to come up with what we're going to say when we start a sentence with I or we. And that's fine. Just keep in mind that during your writing process, you should come back and remove all of those instances of first person or second person. What this will also do is have an effect on the focus of your sentences. It will actually make you say more. It'll make you focus on the topic and then say something about it. Whereas often when we use we or I at the start of a sentence, we end up just saying what the topic is. And that's not making great use of our sentences. So not using first person can force you to make better use of your sentences. Okay. And that's basically what I comment on over here. Um, some stylistic things that I changed there. Okay, so here, this paragraph uses some great primary research. Basically, what they did was they looked at the prices of different products at Deer 72 and Urban Outfitters and did a comparison. And this is great. I just make a recommendation that they should put the comparison prices side by side as opposed to just listing all of one business's prices and then all of the others. Direct comparison would work much better. Also, this is great information to depict in a chart or graph. So if you did put this in a chart or graph, you would still want to talk about this information in the paragraph. Otherwise, your reader is going to ignore the chart or draw their own conclusions or not see what point you're trying to draw. So definitely turn this into a chart or graph. Compare it side by side. That will draw the reader's eye to that information, motivate them to read this paragraph, and then make sure you tell your reader, explain to your reader what they're looking at and why that's important. Okay, so here you can see I've removed second person, and it has no effect on the sentence whatsoever except to stylistically put the focus where it belongs, on the prices and not on you, the reader, which can make people feel uncomfortable. Okay, so that's basically what I wanted to cover in the strengths section. You won't have a mini conclusion in your strengths section. Once you are done with your last body paragraph, you should just end the section and move on to the next section. So as you can see, we have section headings, but it's also great if you want to put in subsection headings. So I could call this location and emphasize that a little bit, so that it's more emphasized in the body paragraph but less emphasized in the section heading. All right, that basically covers it. So key points to remember: have a strong premise that covers both the topic and what makes it a strength. Make sure that you are proving everything you claim in your premise. Avoid trying to put more than one point in one paragraph that ends up having weak content. And then make sure that you are ending your body paragraphs on a concluding sentence, making a recommendation on that topic. All right, I hope that this video was useful and that you'll check out my others. Next video will be on the weaknesses section. Good luck.